Coming from La Spezia, we set off toward Livorno the next morning.
Berge sind leider verdeckt.
We make a longer stop for a walk south of La Spezia on the peninsula in Bocca di Magra. The town, however, is deserted and not very productive. We continue along the coastal road to Marina di Pietrasanta, where we find a parking lot by the sea. The first thing we see is the Ferris wheel. A must-see in a trendy coastal town.
Das sind Sonnenschirme, die er hat.
Marina di Pietrasanta seems to be one of those typical seaside resorts with a sandy beach on the Tuscan-Ligurian coast. Here, one lounger with a parasol stands next to the next. But at least you can enjoy a cappuccino with a view of the beach before we continue on. In the early afternoon, we reach a campsite north of Livorno's industrial port. The next morning, we take a bus that stops in front of the campsite and head toward Livorno. The final stop was Piazza della Repubblica. Our first stop took us to the nearby market hall. The market hall is divided into two sections, but it's huge. There are certainly over 100 market stalls inside.
Gemüse, was man hier sieht.
However, there aren't many fruit and vegetable stalls. A separate section is reserved for fishmongers. In the slightly larger hall, in addition to meat and cheese stalls, there are also wine merchants and many coffee shops.
Ich glaube, klopft das Schnitzel, gell? Und da drüben die Schinken, guck mal, wie toll die aussehen.
We let ourselves drift, stopping in here and there.
Das lebe der Parmesankäse. Was ist das, der Kilopreis? Wahrscheinlich, gell?
The selection is enormous. It's not cheap here, yet a lot of people shop here. Finally, we sit down for a cappuccino. Before that, I bought 2 delicious pieces of cake. Outside the market hall, we continue with the street vendors selling all kinds of textiles and shoes. On Via Caroli, we pass the monument to Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, a supporter of Italian independence, and several stately palazzi where various banks are located. From here, we can already see the back of the Cathedral of San Francesco. The cathedral was designed at the same time as the Pentagonal City, commissioned by the Medici in the 16th century, to crown the southern front of the Piazza Grande. We enter the Hall Church, which was expanded in the 18th century and features a rich interior. Many objects were donated by the Grand Ducal family and prominent figures associated with them. During the air raids of World War II, enormous damage was caused, which has now largely been repaired. From the cathedral, we head toward the harbor. Here, we encounter Livorno's most famous sculptural group. The monument of the Four Moors depicts the marble statue of Grand Duke Ferdinand I. Although this forms the focal point, the truly unique feature of the monument is the realistically depicted bronze prisoners at its feet. The work most likely served to emphasize the Grand Duke's fame. Here at the Old Harbor, we also encounter fishermen selling their wares to locals. Right next door is the Old Harbor Fort. We continue, however, into the so-called Venetian Quarter. It is said that the bridges and canals give the district its name. However, it has little to do with the atmosphere of Venice. At the edge of a canal lies a church called Santa Caterina, which, from the outside, appears rather ugly. Its octagonal shape and high dome are the most striking elements of the old town of Venezia Nuova. It was built starting in the first half of the 17th century. The interior, illuminated by the dome's large windows, is arranged around 8 large columns that support the dome's drum. Inside, we admire the ornamented dome segments depicting the 4 evangelists and several scenes from the life of Mary. Among other things, the altar of the Syro-Maronite community is noteworthy. The 19th century frescoes by Cesare Maffei on the side walls are also admirable. The last stop on our brief visit to Livorno is the city fort. It is completely surrounded by water. Access is via a small bridge. There are several vaults in the lower area. However, if you go upstairs, you find yourself in a shady park, which is also used for open-air events. Since the fort is elevated here, we can admire the sights in all directions. From here, we can see the Piazza di Repubblica again, from where our bus will return to the campsite. Tomorrow we will continue south along the coastal road until we reach the vicinity of Piombino.